So I'm really delighted to introduce our reader tonight, our 8th reader in this first year series of the Milwaukie Poetry Series, Kate Gray. Kate migrated from Connecticut in the early 1980s, and she teaches English at Clackamas Community College here and is part of the Portland Dangerous Writing Community. Kate's chapbook, Bone Knowing, won the 2006 Gertrude Press Poetry Contest. And her first chapbook, Where She Goes, won the 2000 Blue Light Poetry Prize. Cedar House Books has released Kate's first full-length book, Another Sunset, We Survive. She's a graduate of Williams College, received her MFA in poetry from the University of Washington, and lives in Portland. And if you want more information about Kate, you can check her website, www.kategraywriter.com. I've known Kate for a number of years, and it's a really delight. Please welcome our poet tonight, Kate Gray.
Gosh, what an honor. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And I'm sort of stunned to be in the midst of so many artists and writers in this room. It's really quite a privilege. Thank you so much, dancers, ceramic art. I mean, this is quite an auspicious crowd, so thank you. In compiling a book, you kind of go, oh, what's the thread? What's the theme? And I thought, oh my word, I better come up with something. So I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, Langston Hughes, always quote another writer if you can. Langston Hughes gave a legacy to other writers. He said, your debt has already been paid. Your way has been paid. You don't need to prove anything. Well, for me, this book kind of has a lot of my own culpability, my own complicity, and part of being in a privileged society, part of being that privilege. And it also, for me, offers me an ounce of forgiveness. And so I think I'm going to take you through a bit of that tonight. So thanks for bearing with me. But you can't help but read about rowing when you're right next to a pond. So here's that broadside. Long row on Hatch's Pond. At sunset, all trees turned liquid, bark shimmering like fish scales. Steep hills of pine sloped into the lake. Trees grew close. Branches dark and interlocking kept me offshore. Near a pine knocked down, I cast a lure for a wide-mouthed bass to bite. Few did. Still I rowed the old metal boat far from the abandoned shack, the dock, the landing where birches gathered. At the far end, reeds sprung cattails. Red-winged blackbirds bristled warnings. After one enormous pull, I tucked the oars like wings, hurled my raw body headlong into the bow, arms stretching over gunwales, chest pressing the ridge, my nose nearly plowing into water. I parted lily pads, flew low through a forest of weeds until I thudded but did not tip. Rolling to face the sky darkening, my seat on the hull, legs draped over the bench, I heard the thick crickets trill the night, truce from stifling day. Then wind came to drag me home. I'm not exactly sure why my mom didn't know where I was on those afternoons, but they were great. There was a lot going on in my house growing up, and one of the things that I'm sort of grateful for is our house burnt down when I was 6, and that helped us. That actually freed us from a house that was full of fire inside, not literal, but very dangerous for us. And part of what you can do when you're little is witness, and when you get older you can write it down. So my way of contributing to the healing has been to write it down and to tell my siblings that I saw what went on. And this is a poem to my sister. Sister, I saw. My sister hoarded smoke, the reek of charred wood doused by water and dammed. The smell was one of the few things living after flames took our room. So she sealed it in a black vinyl bag made for doll clothes. She tucked it deep inside a closet in our new home, dug it out when she thought I slept, as if smell could not break sleep. Smoke never leaves. It enters everything and never washes out. The round bag laid on the crisscross of her legs, she unzipped one tooth at a time. As the tab traveled across the plastic track, she lost years from her face. 8 years old again, her eyes did not shift. They filled with dolls she lost, laughter of aunts and uncles, all eyes on her. Blonde curls and bows, she danced. Then at 15, she bossed and bothered, knocked boys over, embarrassing me. I did not see her spread the bag apart, the way a Bible might open onto John, the witness, the writer. I heard her breathe. And with those breaths, she let out all she could not tell. So there are many secrets to people's lives, and I just keep on coming back to water. I don't know what it is. And I used to spend a lot of time rowing on the Willamette, and I actually used to come down pretty much to Milwaukie Bay and to hope that I wouldn't flip over because there was sure to be somebody watching. But I would come down and then go back up towards, all the way back up to the Fremont Bridge. And so I have a series of poems marking that trip. I used to make it about 5:15 every morning. So it's a wonderful experience to be out there and to be by yourself. And a lot of things occur to you that you might not have occur to you later in the busy day. So this is called Catch and Release. Just past boathouses south of Ross Island, flashes of struggle showed a fish caught firm. Silver shards broke thin skins of water. Yesterday, my friend's brother died that way. Like a greedy sea lion, AIDS batted him back and forth, broke eardrums, pierced jawbone, stripped flesh from ribs. Before the end, when seizures were sure signs nerves still worked, his body, like divers arching into back dives, plummeted, flopping him flat-backed on sweat-stained beds, splashed him with spasms, shocks, regrets. Only when family arrived did nurses let him swim in Valium. Yesterday, doctors, fishers of empty shells, unhooked him from tubes, let him go dead. All I can do today is resist the slap of water passing and back through shifting currents with a brittle bow. So those are poems of kind of what can you do, you kind of live your life in a different way and carry that person with you. Here's a totally active poem, you'll be relieved to know. And it's based more on the sensory, and it's also on a prompt. So writing workshops are beautiful things, and this is one I took once that had this prompt, it's a series of prompts. The word bastante is Spanish for enough. bastante. The last time I was a man, I sliced olives and spread each green butterfly on his tongue so he would know salt. The time before that, I climbed the branches of mango trees to pick soft globes and slip slices on his tongue so he would know sunlight. The time before that time, I pinched mint leaves, crushed fistfuls in my palms, ran them along the sinews of his neck so he would know cold. The next time I am a man, I will crush chipotle between stones, dust my fingers and taste each one, kiss his lips lightly so he will know fire. When I am a man, my name is bastante. The world I reach gives my hands enough to touch, shows me what my skin knows, the taste of believing. So this thing about language and action and not, I think it might be in my blood. It's just a thought. I come from a line of writers. My mom's job was to answer people's letters. And so I heard her always talking into a tape recorder as a kid. That's all. Every night I would hear her, and doing the punctuation as well, because someone else was going to type it up. So this is a little bit about my mom and her job and my job today. Dear Sir, comma. Sometimes folding my body like origami to hide under my mother's vanity, I held my breath when she entered the room. Other times I feigned weightlessness to walk over creaky New England floors and sat outside the bathroom where she soaked in jeanette, heard the plop of bright balls of oil in hot, hot water. Sometimes from my room I heard her voice, tired from raising 6 children in the 60s, tired from hacking herself away from my father, rooting his madness in us all. Her job was answering the mail for her brother, a pundit launching conservative reform in language and politics, enunciating into a microphone, the tape taking her voice in tight rounds to a secretary in an office in New York City. My mother's open syllables turned. My grandfather had trained her O's and A's. From my room, I heard her answer the letters, squabbling over my uncle's columns. Dear Sir, comma, my cap brother appreciates your concern, period, punctuating my sleep. Now, nearly 40, I hear my mother's voice long distance, the lilting tone, the training of faintly British vowels. Working my job, responding to compositions by students who do not hear words parried in political debate. I speak into a computer, my voice springing into type. I hear my round vowels, dear student, comma, and I see my mother bent above her desk. Thanks. Well, one of the things you should never do is say that you're a poet. Just don't do it. And you never know how people are going to respond. One of the most fun things if they run away. No, but sometimes people run towards you, and then there's a whole other thing. And I had this experience in Indonesia of saying, "What do you do?" Well, I am a poet. And it was I have to go to a foreign country to be able to admit that a lot of times. But and this woman said, "Then I have to tell you this story." And she just boom, sat me down. And it was an amazing story. And this was what could I had to write it down. That's that's your job. Sulawesi. On the island of Sulawesi, Mothers with machetes cut tombs in tree trunks, ebony, mahogany. In hibiscus, they hollow a place for bodies dead from drinking water. River water stagnating, soil saturated, nothing stays buried on land. They place small bodies upright in graves carved in the heart of wood. Lash bark doors shut with sashes until they seal. Faint green lines marking casket covers in trees. In the rainforests of Sulawesi, trees sway in hot breeze, each marked with latchless doors. They rock small wooden hearts. And then she described looking at this forest and seeing all of them with these little green doors. So I think it's 60% of the children in Indonesia die before the age of 5. So let's write that down because whew. And so from doing that sort of action to sort of a more immediate action, I had the privilege of going to Louisiana as a Red Cross volunteer during Katrina. I was there on day 6. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and whom I would meet, and I learned a lot, big amount from just about everybody I met, and in particular a big man that to whom I'm going to introduce you in this poem. And he was so big, it was one of those things you sort of wanted to get out of the way. And he had quite a story to tell, and I just appreciate. So I was so honored to have been there. I was in a shelter for 4,000, and it was like our Coliseum here, and all just rows and rows of mattresses. What you saw on the news, that's and so I was there right between Katrina and Rita. Timing is everything. So I had to flee. I was lucky enough to be able to flee as Rita was bearing down, and it went right through where I'd been. So anyway, so these poems, I have a series of poems about just the necessities that people didn't have. So something to wear, or something to eat. So this big guy, something to wear was a big challenge. Okay, something to wear. Triple X shirts, shoes bigger than Nikes worn by pro ball players. A muscle man struts into the shelter. Freed from dank cell, the convict said, "I won't leave this place until I find my wife." And the word came, his wife didn't want to be found. Clothes trucked from Connecticut fit like sausage skin. Donated weights under the one tree in the parking lot pumped his rage. 100-degree humidity, clothes sopping, he paced the rim of the indoor coliseum like a god applauding lions before their kill. Each day, white girl in red vest, I asked, "Is there anything I can get you?" Each day he said, "Get me my wife." But one day it was, "Get me a CD player." And when I did, his head crowned with earphones, he was a singing king, sweat dripping from his lips. That evening we got him the PA system, and he sang praise. Jesus, he sang. Jesus, and the thousands in the Coliseum rose to their feet. They sang Jesus in harmony. They said, "Sing it, baby." They said, "Amen." And the big man cried into the microphone, "Jesus so bleak and Jesus so sweet. All of us believed we were clothed just right." So Many of you have dealt with and are dealing with parents who are in, maybe ill or fading. And Sunday was the year anniversary of my mom's death, and she took about 10 years to leave. She had her own way of going. It was no other way to say it, but she was going to do it her way. And she did it her way, I tell you what. Drink in hand. If she could have had a cigarette there, would have been. But there were a number of times over those 10 years when she got pretty close to leaving us. So one of the things that was hard for me was, when you're a daughter, you're supposed to be, go mom, stay with us. And I was like, I know how she wanted to live. So part of the guilt that I had was wanting her to go. So this is the title poem to the collection. Another sunset we survive. The bruise across the sky knots up, flares crimson, streaking the underside of clouds with blood. This sunset ignites the night my mother might die. In ICU, the drips slip into her veins, sticking her to a life she'd rather let go. Already like a rope across her palm, her life she'd release like rice tossed high, deliberate. She wants to go big, avalanched by heart, crushed in swift crash, not this simper of life seeping out, tubes rubbing nostrils each night, the pause every second step to lean against a wall. She'd wed death if she could, and I, wretched daughter, wish her wed. In each church I visit, I clank coins into metal boxes and buy candles to kill her. Sure, I pray for quick ends, but mostly I can't stand to face her fear suddenly tucked behind a smear of smile when I enter the sterile room, the gray veins bulging in her hand, resting limp, the smoke inside her eyes, once quick, coquettish, their light burning like this clotted sky. This sunset keeps another night too damn alive. So again, drawn to water, my sister and I shared this moment in the pool that outside where my mom lived when she died, and it was so classically, we were so clearly our mother's daughters, and this is called swimming in a thunderstorm. The day after our mother died in Connecticut, rain falls like penance. My sister leads me to the pool, pushes me in the deep end. Look, she says, jumping in, her hands and feet in the air. Look how I float. I sink. Under raindrops lobbed from thunderheads, the sound of no sound, its echo is warm. The rain circling on the water above me, the top of the water, the sky, all rings intersecting. In the rumble of storms, the way some evenings rang black, Mother used to sit under the awning by the pool, cigarette smoke curling blue, book open, cocktail turning pale on the table. Her hair, she announced, was the reason she didn't swim. Without looking up, she said, "Time to come out." Today, 2 daughters swim under threat of lightning strike. Then my sister asks in a voice as soft as water on water, "Is it different, this place, everything?" Yesterday, she held our mother's right hand, eggplant and black from weeks of needles. It took hours for our mother's pulse to retreat from her feet, then legs, then left hand. Since the moment we saw the last breath drawn, our world turns thunder, thunder, thunder. Just two more poems from here. It's such a thanks to Tom and everybody for such great. It's such an honor to be here, and it clearly takes a village. This is a Pablo Neruda permission poem, Ode to Ordinary Things. He lets you just do these wild things. It's just a lovely thing. So here's a mad dash of a poem. Hang on, I didn't know where it was going to go. You probably won't either. But it does have to do with water. What can I say? Ode to sticky notes. On metal bookshelves, on monitor, on doorframe, you stick like first lines of novels by Nobel Prize winners. Pink and distinct, the tongue in a kiss in a doorway of a stranger's home, as the moon, a ripe orange, drops, and the sun, a hungry cheetah, rises. You stand out in the din of unmarked essays, of shadow boxes introducing County Cullen to student poets, of syncopated sounds of Sekou Sundiata. On the morning after standing in the psych ward until midnight with a poet who figured postcards to friends would arrive after her suicide, I unlock my office, find you like stars in the Southern Cross on a moonless night, the ocean rolling beneath my kayak thin as paper, and you bring light, bring the fine writing of a lover as good as breath on the cheek, her pen-etched hearts on each of you, the shape of animal tracks, the way the living recognize the living in the office of possibility. And the last poem is the last poem in the collection. Unfortunately, this poem is still relevant. I wish it weren't. I have to switch. I won't in my reading because I'll mess up, but in the reading it says 2 years, and now it's been 5 years in this war that we're participating in, and or initiating. This ends up being a blessing, and I wanted to thank you again and wish you this blessing. Maybe we'll actually have summer. It's just a thought. In the meantime, this spring, kiss me like a killdeer cry, a broken wing dragging ground to draw us from some hurt we've borne. Kiss me blossom soft, clusters of cherry cups spilling light. Kiss me 2 years after bombs dropped, 2 years of men detained, made naked, piled and plumbed, 2 years of bombs plundering temples, pipelines, and 4-year-olds praying. Kiss me in the rubble. The ocean got hungry for flesh. I am hungry for you. No word for want or when. The bone knowing to go deeper to see when tsunamis roil. In oil drilled from reindeer runs, in diamonds turned drug needles into boy arms, in prayers before the torsos are blown, kiss me quick, kiss me deep, kiss me now. In the dew of new moon, in the rise of planting moon, the clouds strafing the full moon as it sets, when the gibbous moon dips into sunrise, kiss me then. Kiss me when the blossoms take the bombs. Kiss me when the petals pool in water clear of killing. In Lenten light, please kiss. Bless me now. Bless us all. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I think if there are any questions or anything that I could quote some other poet to answer you with. Tom.
Could you talk about how you became a poet? And I think part of that is when you knew you wanted to be a writer.
Oh. I wasn't good at anything. No, poems popped out. That was how it when I was little, they just came out. And when you're in a family of writers, you try to do something a little bit different. So journalism was out, done, novels done. So I was like, little things. I can manage little things and kind of tuck them away, because I had 6 brothers and sisters and nothing was private. So it's a really good thing to be able to sort of go, what are you doing? Nothing? And then as far as wanting to really delve into it, I drove out here with a golden retriever puppy when I was 24. I'm not sure who was driving, which puppy was driving, but I taught 9th grade and then 7th grade, and thought, I have to do something else. So I thought, what do I like about this? Okay, I like the poetry part. I like teaching poetry. I like reading it. So that sent me to graduate school. And it really wasn't until I was taking a foreign language when I could say, poeta. Poeta. I don't know why I couldn't say it in English. I don't know why. It felt haughty or something to say you're a poet. So it wasn't until I was studying Spanish that I could say it. Yes, please.
How do you write? You write on a computer? Do you write pencil at the dining room table? Or how do you write?
Thanks. I wish I could say I was like Stafford, and
Yeah.
but no, I do get up at crack of dawn, or before, around 5. I go to get coffee, go to a computer, and I tend to open up like 2 poems that I want to revise, and then open up another screen for a new one. So I'm flipping back and forth between 3 poems at least. When I get stuck, I just keep going and try to get at least about 40 minutes in before the dogs drag me outside. But everybody has their own way.
Who are some of the poets that have influenced you the most?
Paul Ann Peterson. I'd say in life, the African American poets have been the most compelling to me, the people who gave me permission to have feelings, and it validated that more than any other group of poets that I had studied. And so within that group, I would say County Cullen, Langston Hughes, all the women of that time period had just flown out of my head. Certainly Maya Angelou, but she was more her autobiographies inspired. But those folks cracked me open and allowed me to explore what was inside, instead of trying to intellectualize and put distance with anything that I was experiencing or anything I was writing. So, and then from there, people like Marilyn Hacker, people who compressed language, Colleen McElroy, Lee Young Lee, who were very much attentive to sound, were the ones that knocked my socks off.
So with Gwendolyn Brooks, did you read her?
I did read her, but she didn't punch me quite as much as some other folks. I think of Gloria Anzaldúa. Let's see. Well, Audre Lorde.
Sonia Sanchez?
Sonia Sanchez, not so much. I wasn't so familiar with her. Adrienne Rich. Folks like that. People with a lot of social commentary, people who are attentive to sound and trying new things, putting new word combinations together. Thanks. Questions?
I was gonna say, I love the poems, and I found the stories or the narrative between the poems interesting as well.
Oh, thank
I'm just
you.
wondering if you've ever, or maybe you have written down some of those stories in prose.
I haven't. My siblings would probably get pretty upset.
Oh, yeah.
I should. That's a great idea, just sort of write along with them. But thank you. It's one of the things to try to figure out how you're going to move from one to the other. It's kind of a fun challenge. And it's usually different each time. Thank you. Other things I can- Susanna?
This might be self-evident, but how do you feel that living in Oregon, coming to the West Coast, has maybe changed or evolved your writing?
Great. Another great question. Well, again, that's sort of part and parcel with myself as a person. And being on the West Coast allows me to breathe. On the East Coast, I look like the rest of my family so much that I have been on a train out of New York City and someone says, "Oh, are you so-and-so's relative?" And and my mom used to say, "It's the gums, dear." We have the same smile, and so just coming at the West Coast, nobody's hurt. Well, not that people know of Williams College or know of the family I come from or anything. So it was like, cool. I get to invent myself. I get to be a mix of different people and allow that mix to be complicated. So in being able to then to translate that into how and what I express has been tremendously freeing. And being able to tell the truth. That's been absolutely critical. Being able to say, yeah, it wasn't pretty. Yeah, it was hard. Whereas in the family, the society that I grew up in, it was, how are you? Fine, thank you. And how are you? And you just didn't talk about anything. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that. It might not just be an East Coast thing, but you were not part of the family if you did say things. So I came about as far as I could go, and was able to write. Other questions?
Well, if there are no more questions,
Great.
Kate is going to be here
Sure.
for a while.
Absolutely.
And we have refreshments and books.
Great.
Thank you all
And
for coming.
thanks again, everybody.